Well, it was a smackdown in the Saddle Dome as the Predators grinded out a gritty win against the Calgary Flames.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. Thank you for making us your first stop of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. I want to start off by shouting out all the Locked On Predators podcast community and our everydayers who tune in to chat all things Preds every day. Before we get started, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. My name is Jack Williams, and I am the Nashville Predators beat writer for the Hockey News. And man, it's great to be back in Nashville. If you guys have been watching the YouTube cast, even in the audio cast as well, I have been traveling for the past week and a half around Florida, but we are finally back in Nashville at our Nashville headquarters, whatever you want to call it, our studio. And we'll just jump into it right now and talk about an entertaining game that really opened up the year. That was a 4-3 win for the Predators over the Calgary Flames that happened on Saturday, January 3rd. When you guys are watching this, we're going to kind of be in the mid-period wrapping up this road trip. On Monday, to be kind of being the dead period before going into Tuesday, which is the final game of the road trip at the Edmonton Oilers. But man, was this an entertaining game? If anything, it was crazy. It was everything that's kind of built up in a way with these two teams. The Predators in the last two meetings between the Flames that have happened at Bridgestone Arena have dominated the Flames. And that was kind of how I got on the narrative a little bit of this Predators team really doesn't make sense in being in the bottom of the standings, in that they are beating up a lot of teams that are in similar spots as they are. The Flames were the one that they were primarily doing that to, and the Blues, until they had lost to the Blues. But with the 4-3 win, they win the season series. But this was a tight win. Calgary's been playing really well too, similar to the Predators. They have gotten themselves out of the basement of the league and are giving them a chance to go after that final wild card. So we saw in this matchup that these teams are really playing at an equal level now, a really competitive game. Very, very, very physical game. One goal game, and it came down to the final minute. It was Nick Hague scoring on a slap shot with 27 seconds left. He was really the impact player in this game, and we'll get into all the details of what this game was and the implications of it that are happening today, that being today, Sunday, January 4th, and how physical it was and how that happened. But I'm talking about Hague's impact and talking about the goal mainly that happened in those final 27 seconds. It was the fourth line, which really was the main character of this game. It was McCarron getting the puck along the boards. He pushed it up to Cole Smith, who was along the boards. Then it found its way up to Nick Hague. Nick Hague created some space up by the top of the circles, just ripped a slap shot just straight through, and it found the back of the net. And the Predators are up with less than a minute to go in the game. Calgary actually scored a late goal to tie it up 3-3. Hague talked a little bit about this after the game and saying that there was a resiliency with this team and a fight with the team, that they weren't deterred, they weren't affected by the late scoring goal in the game, and that it was all about getting another one, getting the next one. And that was kind of the theme of this game, going after the next one and going after it completely and being gritty and just grinding a win out. I mentioned before that the Utah game was a game that they had to grind it out, and it was. And just having to go behind again. Also, let's mention it too. They went behind in this game 2-0. This is the sixth straight game that they've gone down in a game at least 1-0. So that's an issue that they need to assess here. And we learned from the previous game against Seattle that they can continuously do this, but they can't win every game doing it. The Seattle game was a game where they went down and they lost. And St. Louis was another game where they went down and they lost. Like, it can't be continuous like this. And this was another game where they went down 2-0. Thankfully, they were able to battle their way back and end up winning. But it's just another situation where Predators are giving up an early goal and they have to work their way up here. But talking about the grind aspect in this game, the physical aspect, and just the grittiness of it all, let's talk about John Beecher of the Calgary Flames. And he was a major agitator in this game. So starting off in the first period, he got into a scrum with Michael McCarron, just kind of shoving back and forth, not fighting, but causing enough to cause issues and just a whole mess of people in front of. It was kind of around the Flames and Predators benches along that side of the ice. Then in the middle of I guess McCarron and Beecher kind of shoving back and forth within the scrum. Beecher gets his hand free and slugs. I'm glad I didn't hit myself there. McCarron right in the face, hard enough to knock McCarron down. And it was a sucker punch, to say the least. I've been really hesitant to use that word or that phrase, because I guess it's more, I don't know if that's considered like what it would be considered in the book, or that's the exact language. I guess you can call it a cheap shot. Sucker punch just seems a little bit more casual than anything, but it was a sucker punch, to say the least. That's completely what it was. He sucker punched him. McCarron fell to the ice, and you really have to hit him hard, because this is a guy that's used to fighting. He's physical and he's big, so hit him hard, went to the ice, and both got 2 and 10s, as you expect. So they got the 2-minute roughing penalty and the 10-minute misconduct. What you would think out of that situation was Beecher would get a match penalty, and he did not. And which a match penalty is, it's your intent to hurt somebody, like really hurt somebody. Most penalties, you're getting penalized because you're doing something on accident, or it's seen as an accident for fighting, which is a 5-minute major. But with a match penalty, you're intentionally going out to hurt somebody, like injure them and get them out of the game. And that punishment from a match penalty is you're kicked out of the game, and further repercussions being that you could miss further games. And that wasn't given to Beecher at all. It wasn't even discussed. It was just the 2 and 10 for each. And rightfully so, Andrew Brunette was irate. He was very angry. You could see that from the broadcast. He was fuming, rightfully so. Again, you don't even get a 2 out of this. You don't even get any sort of major penalty. It was just malicious, and just nothing came out of it. And again, rightfully so. And also, I'll get a little bit more into it as well. There were a lot of penalties in this game, but this will probably be one of the only videos this year where I won't complain about it and say that every penalty minute they took was warranted, in that the things they did was warranted. And I think most of the calls were right, except for missing the match penalty there. But Beecher got away with it. And in the moment, he got away with it in the moment. Then in the second period, Hague found Beecher, mixing up my names there, the second period. And as Ryan Lombard was breaking away into the Predator zone, like got over the blue line, got behind the defender, and had himself for a one-on-one chance. I don't know how much of it was a breakaway, just in the sense of how much time he had where it was one-on-one, but he did have a one-on-one situation there. Broken over the blue line, had a chance to score, but the whistle blew it dead, because at that moment, Hague dropped the gloves with Beecher. I don't know. And this is part of me that's like curious. I wish this was asked in the moment, but I think the type of questions being asked were more warranted towards just positive things happening in the game and just them winning, rather than just other things that had happened. But I want to know in the moment, after what had happened with Beecher and what he had done to McCarron, versus Hague being aware of the situation happening on the ice and Beecher being right there, if he kind of knew that was happening in the moment and dropped the gloves in the moment, knowing that would negate the play and giving him a chance to go after Beecher. But Hague won the fight completely, dominated him. It didn't even look like, honestly, just from a big guy perspective, he didn't look like he tried at all and just put this guy down. Just the impact player of the game, Hague, with the goal and then the fight to kind of get some vengeance back from McCarron. And you know what? All of it's just, it all ended well for the Preds at the end, alongside the win today being Sunday. Beecher is now having a hearing with the NHL Department of Player Safety on the sucker punch, because it wasn't called in the moment. Player safety caught it, and now he's going to get a hearing for it. He's probably going to get suspended a few games or so, because it was dirty and it was an intent to hurt. And McCarron had no idea what was going on in the play. But I mentioned the penalty minutes before. The Predators took 28 penalty minutes in this game. There were 54 penalty minutes in total. Like I said, I'm not going to argue too much with it, just because I'm like, It was a gritty game. It was a grinded out game. It was a really physical game. So a lot of it, I think, was kind of warranted. I think the Predators knew going into this was going to be expected. So in my opinion, it wasn't the most awful thing in the world. I was kind of expected was going to happen because I think there's been over 100 penalty minutes in these 3 games between the Flames and the Predators. And it was expected. It was warranted. There were some interesting moments in this game, too, when we're talking about the type of penalties taken. Bunting took an embellishment call, which I cannot find the replay of what the embellishment was anywhere. And then Adam Klapka from the Flames mocked him on the faceoff. There was a faceoff they had off the offsides call, and Klapka and Bunting were next to each other, and Bunting, when you kind of joust for positioning during a faceoff, you kind of tripped him a little bit. Wasn't called a trip because it's not. Fell over, and Klapka got up and did like a little dance. And it was, it's against the Predators and stuff like that, but it was funny in the moment to see. But that happened. And then another one was Cole Smith fought Ryan Lomberg. And then talking about Lomberg again, he was the one who got the scoring chance that was negated from the Hague Beecher fight. So Lomberg was involved in this as well. It was just a battle of fourth lines, bottom sixes here in this game, but it was that came up big. Erik Haula had 2 goals in an 800 career game. This has been just a really nice stretch for Haula and refinding his game, getting going again. And I mean, just making Team Finland. We'll talk about that in a second with the Olympians from the Predators. But first goal is a nice tap and feed from Bunting on the right side of the net. The second goal was a 2-on-1 with Shea, and just kind of played 3D chess with that. Shea 2-on-1 kind of just had the defender and the goalie not thinking what he was going to do with the puck and immediately wristed it and went right into the net. Just a great play by Haula, just a guy playing well right now, and you love to see it. And then the third goal was from Michael Bunting. And this is another thing I do have questions about Brian O'Reilly's ability to really facilitate the offense behind the net and apply up pressure from behind the net. What had happened on this goal was Ryan O'Reilly came behind the net when Dustin Wolf had the puck. Dustin Wolf being the Calgary goalie. Didn't have any contact with him at all. Didn't shove him, didn't hit a stick or anything like that. Was just coming up to the net. I think Wolf panicked, threw it away, and Bunting was right there in front of the net, like a few feet in front of it, obviously, but not in the paint or anything like that, but caught the pass and just fired it into the empty net. And then Wolf had to kind of dive for it, couldn't get it. And that put the Predators ahead in the moment 3-2. But we've seen a lot of goals this year, especially from O'Reilly, where he is kind of facilitating play behind the net. And it's just worked out well for the Predators. He's kind of like Wayne Gretzky was really good doing that. I'm not saying Ryan O'Reilly's Wayne Gretzky, but just solid play from behind the net and being able to facilitate the offense. The segment's gone on for very long, but I'll wrap it up here and say the Predators are now 19-18-4, and now they are 1 point out of a wild card spot after the Sharks lost to Tampa. Predators had been chasing the Sharks for a bit just because the Sharks kept winning. The Predators kept winning. Sharks have finally lost as of today, January 4th at 1:05 p.m. That current wild card spot 1 and 2, those points are tied between the Los Angeles Kings and the Seattle Kraken. Both those teams won their most recent game. If things stay the way they are for Tuesday's game, and again, there will be a podcast before that too, so we'll have time to talk about that. But before Tuesday's game, if that stuff stays the same, the Predators would be in the playoffs if they beat Edmonton. So that would be huge. That would be clutch for them, finally getting into that playoff positioning. Again, I know it's January, but just the fact that you're in playoff positioning after you were dead last in the league by a lot. Massive, major, critical. Fantastic. But that was the win against Calgary. Probably one of the more entertaining games we've seen in a while. The Predators are just playing good hockey right now, but that was a thrilling game. What am I even saying? The Utah game was great. The Vegas game was great. This team is playing good hockey. They're playing entertaining hockey. We haven't seen such a physical game in a while. That's exactly what I should say. And one that was decided by physicality, and that one team wasn't hampered too much by penalty. This was old-time hockey, essentially, and fun to watch completely. But when we come back, we'll talk about the Olympics. We're about a month out now, a little around a month, but there are 4 Predators going to the Olympics, and we will talk about all 4 of them coming up after the break. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during happy hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. That window is so critical when we're talking about sports betting, especially when you have an app like FanDuel that's allowing you guys to get into the door and make the bets immediately, figure out what you're doing, and then have the game start. What a way just to make out of a Friday night and pull up all your friends and go to Buffalo Wild Wings and do it. Sounds like a swell time to me. So before tip off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So the Olympics. The Olympics are finally back after, we'll do some quick math in my head here. So 2014 was the last time NHL players were in the Olympics. After 12 years, we're finally going to see NHL action in the Olympics again. It's been a very long time. And one of those guys returning to the Olympics that was there the first time is Roman Josi. And I won't spoil all the surprises, but he is one of 2 Olympians on this Predators roster. I want to see if you guys know the second one. I'm not going to give it away. I want to see in the comments if you guys can guess who the other Olympian is on this roster, because it's kind of a surprise. And if you think about it, it does make sense in the moment. But there is 2 Olympians on this Predators roster, Roman Josi being one of them. But going back into him, his announcement was made back in June when the NHL announced their preliminary rosters for the Olympics. This will be the 18th time he's playing internationally. The 17th time was with Switzerland. 17th time with Switzerland. 18th time overall, excuse me. He played with Team Europe in the World Cup of Hockey, if you guys remember that, all the way back in 2016. I was a freshman in college, so it's been a second for me too. It was a great time. Like, with the World Cup of Hockey, there are some concepts of that they should adapt and continue doing, like that Team North America thing with all the players under, I think, 23 or 21. Fantastic. Could you imagine that team now? Like some of that, like I think you had like Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon. There was just that team was loaded. Jack Eichel. Like, imagine having that North American team now, and they had Team Europe as well. Just made up of the major European, non-major European countries when we're talking about in the sense of hockey. But Roman Josi played on that team. I just went on a weird rant about the World Cup of Hockey. His last international appearance was on in the 2024 World Championships, where he won silver. Played in the 2014 Sochi Olympics, as I mentioned. One of 2 Olympians on the team. You guys can guess who the other one is. And he's one of the best Swiss players of all time. And you know, this is important to talk about, and just his legacy in Switzerland. Obviously, his legacy in Nashville is huge, and just how much he's done and how big of a player he's been to this organization, a defenseman just building his own career and just being integral to this team's identity and success is important completely with Roman Josi. But he has had such a long-lasting impact with the Switzerland national team. And it not being Switzerland, it is Switzerland, but the team not being Sweden or Finland or Canada or United States, this is kind of when we're talking about the hockey sense, this is not one of the big four nations type of teams we're talking about here. It's not even Czechia. This is a team that he was really part of the build here. When he first got involved in the World Juniors, this was a team that was, placing last most times. This was a team that was fighting to stay within relegation and not get delegated. And I think you could say the same thing too for the World Championships. And this was a team that was kind of year in, year out towards the bottom of the standings. Now, almost 20 years into his career, the 18th time he's playing internationally, 17th time he's representing Switzerland. Switzerland's been a machine at these Olympics. I don't know how well they're going to do. It would be interesting if they can get into kind of the semifinal round, even like into the quarterfinal round, do well in their group. That would be interesting for sure. But when we're talking about Swiss hockey, and I'll get back onto the Predators train in a second, but he's been integral into that part of them being kind of a power now. They are ranked, I believe, inside the IIHF's top 5, at least the top 10 standings. When we're talking about just the best international all-around programs in the world. The Swiss are constantly in the gold medal game in the World Championships most year. I believe they had a solid year last year at the World Juniors. Like, they're good. They're becoming a really good hockey nation. Them in Germany, and you could go on a long haul about Leon Draisaitl and what he's done for German hockey too. But he's been so intricate. Him and Nino Niederreiter have been so intricate in building Swiss hockey. And that's something I want to explore more, especially now with the Olympics coming up and just his impact and him seeing the game grow. He is so critical to the growth of Swiss hockey, which is why the group he's going to be in is so much more important. Switzerland's going to be in a group with Canada, Czechia, and France. And in my opinion, if you ask me right now, they're probably guaranteed one win right now. The Czechia game is going to be very good. It will be so interesting to see how much of a fight they'll put up against Canada and if they can get it done. I have all my opinions about Canada hockey. I think they know how to turn it on in the moment. I think when we're talking about preliminary play, they have holes, and it's important to take advantage of them. I watched a whole video talking about how the United States is gearing up to build a team just to beat Canada and wanting to build a team that's fast and keep up with Canada and take advantage of all their weak points. But that's my opinion on the United States, but it's going to be interesting in this group for sure. Czechia's they've been very weird lately. They are a good team. I believe they have won a gold medal before, but that was like in the 90s. That was a long time ago. But France is the only team I see right now. Switzerland picking up a win over, but who knows? I mean, like I said, this is a very growing country with hockey. You have some veterans on this team. It will be interesting to see what Switzerland does at the Olympics. But our second Olympian we want to talk about from the Predators, that's Filip Forsberg. Just a no-brainer who's going to make Team Sweden. I was kind of shocked when they announced all the names for who was going to make each teams back in June that Filip Forsberg was not in that preliminary group. It was just kind of weird to me because he's been kind of just a consistent, integral part of Sweden, so much to the point where he's just been a regular on this roster, and he's a veteran of the roster now, and just not including him on those first preliminary roster was just kind of confusing to me. But he made the Sweden roster anyway. This is going to be the 11th time he's representing Sweden. His last appearance was in the Four Nations face-off. He also played in the World Cup of Hockey in 2016. There are a lot of World Cup of Hockey veterans on this team, which kind of surprises me because it was all the way back in 2016, which this year, oh my God, aging myself, was 10 years ago. And like I said, that was my senior year of high school and like my freshman year of college. So just thinking about, I graduated 10 years ago, I started college 10 years ago, and that's when the World Cup of Hockey happened. So, and then some of y'all will be like, well, you're so young. I don't feel young. Let's just say that. And talking about that, the World Cup of Hockey in that sense and all that, it's gonna be a very nostalgic year, to say the least, for moi. But he has won gold twice. He's won at the 2018 World Championships, and he won at the 2012 World Juniors. Really, he's been very successful when we're talking about international play. This will be his 11th time. He's played 10 times before. He's medaled 7 different times. He has 2 gold and 5 silver. I mean, when we're talking about Sweden and what they were in the 2010s, they were number 2 completely, all around, in the sense of they were number 2. The United States wasn't really there. They were still coming up. Canada won number 1 no matter what. Sweden was getting their edge in over Russia, which is crazy to say because Russia was so good in the 2010s. And right now, if they were allowed in the Olympics, they would be a fire wagon. They would be ridiculous. But Sweden was that team back in 2010s. What would happen was they would finish like second in the overall standings in these tournaments. They would have to like just get past the United States. So United States wasn't as good. So it'd be like Czechia in the moment. They'd end up in the gold medal games was the times or get past Finland, and then Canada and Russia would beat each other up, and then they would be the gold medal game. So Sweden used to be like unbelievable back in the 2010s. They've fallen off a little bit, but this is still one of the best hockey nations in the world. Forsberg, as we've seen from the medal count here, he was an integral part of that success. He is still a veteran, integral part of success in building back that Swedish legacy in hockey. Like I said, it's a no-brainer that he made this roster. He's going to be playing on a roster with some really good guys, Gabriel Landeskog from the Colorado Avalanche, and just a team that seems like they made a deal with the devil. It's January. They still have lost just twice in regulation. That's crazy. That's so crazy, y'all. Like, they've only, in 60 minutes of hockey, they've only lost twice this year. And they've played like 40-something games. We're like to the midway point of the season. They've only lost 2 games in regulation. That's nuts. And Predators could have been the third, but we're not going to get on that right now. Victor Hedman from the Tampa Bay Lightning, who's another good team. Rasmus Dahlin from the Sabres, who's really good. Mason Raymond from the Detroit Red Wings. And then William Nylander from the Toronto Maple Leafs. A good setup for Sweden here. They have been kind of disappointing lately. And just, it's been really by lately and recently, when me saying that is in the 4 nations, it's been the United States and Canada. And it's looking like it's going to be that again. But who knows? There will be a good push here. They're in a group with Finland, Slovakia, and Italy. It's, in my opinion, it's going to come down to Finland and Sweden, Slovakia, who has some sick jerseys, by the way. Y'all, look up Slovakia's Olympic jersey. It's like their crest, and they went back to like the regular blue color, like a nice lighter blue, and they used to do navy, which I really didn't like. This like lighter blue looks good. It looks like blue, essentially like if you think of the color blue, that's what it is. I just said that color a million times for y'all, but they have their crest here, and then like the top of it, or like the white and the red cut off along the shoulders, it's like mountains. It's really like sick looking. Like I wish there was somebody selected from Slovakia on the Predators roster so I could talk more about these jerseys. Like I almost need to buy one. They're sick. But this group is going to be down to Sweden and Finland, in my opinion. Slovakia, I think, could make a good push. Italy is only there because they are hosting. It was the reason why Japan was there back in Japan hosted 2020. 2022, it was the only reason that China was there, because the host has to compete in every single sport, and China had to be in the hockey group. NHLers weren't there at the time, but that is kind of the host bid, and they kind of have to be thrown into it. So I don't think Italy's going to do very well. And then finally, the two other players that have been selected for the Olympics on the Predators, both playing for the same team. That is Juuse Saros and Erik Haula. We're talking about Saros, who was already announced in June on that preliminary roster. He's the best Finnish goalie in the NHL right now, and he's currently on like this really long redemption arc of just the whole conversation. I've had this conversation a million times with y'all, so I can't get into it again, but like the whole questions of the contract that he was offered and what he had signed and all of that, essentially. And he's really gone on a tear this year, especially in the beginning of the year where the Predators were really bad and just not getting him any support at all. He was still standing his ground, really tall in the net. His numbers might have not been there, but he was facing a ton of shots. And he was really standing tall in that context. And he's been playing fantastic lately too. So it's nice to see him get this honor. It makes sense because he, like I said, he is the best Finnish goaltender in the league right now. He's played in the 4 nations before, and this will be his 8th time representing Finland. And he won gold at the 2014 World Junior Championship. It will be good to see him get a good outing in the Olympics and get some good time under his belt, because he had a really rough outing at the 4 nations face-off. He went 0-2 and a 3.96 goals against average and a .870 save percentage. Finland was the 4th team in the 4 nations face-off. Just the way I think it is, it's just somebody has to slide off there, and he didn't pick up any wins in that short tournament. But he does have experience in a best-on-best tournament. He's playing well. He's played well in the World Championships too. And he's going to have a good team with him as well. So Finland, this is another team too that was really good, I think, in the late 2010s and then into the early 2020s. And I think they're still really, really good. in my opinion, they're the third best team in the world right now. So it'll be interesting to see that. But looking at who they're bringing alongside Saros, you have Miro Heiskanen, Mikko Rantanen, Esa Lindell, and Sebastian Aho. A ton of those players are from the Stars, but you have some of the best players in the NHL right now on this Finn team, and it will be interesting to see how they put this chemistry together, especially a bunch of them being from Dallas. It will be interesting to see how the Finnish combat the Swedes and then go into the knockout rounds, because this group is Sweden, Finland, Slovakia, and Italy. This is probably the most competitive group in my opinion. This will be the most fun group to watch for sure. But then the final player that got in was Erik Haula. This will be the third time he's playing in a best and best tournament. Played in the Four Nations face-off. He played in the World Cup of Hockey. I did not know that. And in the sense that we're talking about the guys that are being selected for the Olympics right now, so the Olympians, there are Erik Haula, Filip Forsberg, and Roman Josi. There are three guys out of the four that are going to the Olympics that play in the World Cup of Hockey. That's just crazy to me, because you think about it and you're like, you think about how old that tournament is and that those guys are still around putting up big numbers going to the Olympics. And it's kind of like, wow, it was 10 years ago. Like I've said a million times before, but he shared how he found out about this moment about being selected for the Olympic team. And he said he found out on Christmas, which is just wonderful. He got a call from the Finnish head coach saying you've made the team essentially. And the coach was like, "Oh, call me if you need anything." And he's like, and Haula said something along the lines of like, he's like, if you need anything from me ever, please let me know. Like, I'll do anything right now, whatever you need. He's like, I've been waiting 12 years for this call. And it's moments like these that makes you realize, like, what the heck was Gary Bettman doing from after 2014? From 2018 to 2022, what was this man doing and just not having the NHL being involved in Olympics? I understand you wanted to grow non-regular season competition in the United States, but at the same time, all they did in that stretch was play all-star games. And it's moments like these where, like, you have someone like Haula who was been wanting to get into the Olympics forever and is finally so grateful for this moment. You kind of look at this and you're like, it's amazing that he gets to have it now, but why couldn't he get this back in 2022 or 2018? Like, it just makes the whole decision by Bettman to essentially bar NHL players from the Olympics just look bad. And I could go down a long, long list of players. I think one of the players I wanted to talk about in Vegas is Tomas Hertl with Czechia and him getting his opportunity. I know Alexander Ovechkin, that's like the last thing on his list he wants to check off. Unfortunately, with Russia not playing in the Olympics, he doesn't have that opportunity. But if the Russians and the NHL players were allowed to play in the Olympics in 2022 and in 2018, he would have had the opportunity to compete for it. So it is what it is. They get to compete now. That's all that matters. But it's good for Haula. Like I said, he played his 800th game against Calgary. He scored 2 goals. He's really rounding a corner in the midway part of the season. I think he's going to be a critical player when we're talking about Finland's bottom 6. Just great. It's great for him to get this moment, and it will be even better to see what he becomes after the Olympic break too. But another long segment here, and want to talk about maybe some snubs and talk about maybe why they're not snubs in the moment. And Steven Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly is that's a little bit more, I'm like, you have a veteran center that could give you really good minutes on the bottom 6. He has a lot of experience. He's played in the World Cup of Hockey before. He's been decent all year round. He's been good on a bad team. And I think he should have gotten a look. I don't even know if he was invited to the camp, but I think that's somebody who should have gotten a chance for sure. I think he should have gotten a good look for sure, but it's understandable, and just the depth of Canada's roster and how crazy it is and how much talent they have. And they're just absolutely stacked this year. It's really hard to get in that door unless you're putting up good numbers. So, I mean, O'Reilly's numbers are good, but I just don't think they were good enough to make this Canada roster. Another player who I think if he had been playing good out the door, And like the way he's playing right now, if that started from the beginning of the year and was just continuing through to now, I think he would have gotten a bid, or at least would have been one of the extras in there. That's Steven Stamkos. He just had a bad start to the year. He had an awful start to the year. And I don't think the selecting for Team Canada starts really early on. And he was just not fit for that. And it's kind of heartbreaking to see in the moment, because I don't know if he'll be playing in the 2030 games. That's 4 years out from here. And he's never played on an Olympic team. He's never won a gold medal. I think that's the one thing he's missing too, similar to Alexander Ovechkin, but he has a chance to do it with Canada participating in the Olympics. So it's kind of sad to see with that, but it's understandable why he wasn't selected, as I mentioned, with the depth, and just he had a rough start to the year, but that's rough for him. But that's who the Predators have going to the Olympics. The Olympics will be starting up in February, and everyone will be watching. The Olympics are so much fun. But before we get into the last segment, I want to talk to you guys about the Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everyday Club today and get Locked On Predators with no interruptions, member-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Y'all, we're still in the beginning of the year. We're still in the very beginning, early of the year. Make the most of that $50, or hey, if you just like paying month to month like I do with most things, get it for $5. $5 is not bad at all. Go to lockedonpredators.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. When we come back, have another fun segment. Won't be as long here, but we got some juicy stuff to talk about. We will be talking about some rumors that have popped up over the weekend. So there were two rumors that popped up. One has been debunked. The other one, everyone is kind of running with, and it'll be interesting to see if somebody can confirm it. But the first one was that the Winter Classic was going to be held at Bristol Motor Speedway, which is in Bristol, Tennessee. As y'all know, it's 150,000 seats. It's ginormous. There's a rumor going around that was going to be held. The Winter Classic was going to be held at Bristol Motor Speedway in 2027. And what had happened was a Reddit post had gone out on like NASCAR r/racing. I cannot remember what it was, and I cannot find the original Reddit post, but I can find the screenshot that made everyone think it was. And I'll talk about it in a second about how I don't think it's fully off the table. But it was a Reddit post that showed a screenshot from the NHL's website, and it showed Winter Classic 2027, Bristol, and then it had like a picture of like the checkered finish line. I don't know anything about racing, so I'm like, if we're getting to racing talk, I'm not gonna explain this well, but like the checkered racing line, and then the wall across from it had like the Predators logo and the Hurricanes logo on it. It was quickly debunked by a handful of journalists. However, they just said a trusted source, or they just threw kind of the source out type of detail, which is that's aggravating. I'm a big fan of transparency, so I want to shout out Fox Sports Motorsports reporter Bob Pockras, who said Jerry Cadwell, who is the president of Bristol Motor Speedway, Jerry Cadwell denied the claim that the game was being held there. However, he still said that there's still a lot of interest to work with many other outlets, many other leagues, and bring an NHL game to Bristol Motor Speedway. Now, kind of have to put on my tinfoil hat here and say that my opinion of this, and just putting math together, is I think this is just somebody found this out. I think it was leaked, and this is them backtracking everything. Why do I think that? Well, the NHL had officials at the Braves game this summer that was played at Bristol Motor Speedway. The NHL had officials there interested in hosting a potential NHL game there. Nothing really came out of it other than that the report was that there were officials there in the moment. The Speedway has hosted multiple sporting events before. They've hosted the MLB game this summer. They've hosted NCAA games before at the FCS level and the FBS level. And then way back in the 60s, they hosted a NFL game. So, I mean, it makes sense in them wanting to expand more. It seems like they're expanding a lot more. The WWE is interested in hosting events at Bristol Motor Speedway just because it's so huge and it would be unique and it would break a lot of records in all these leagues. It's right in between Raleigh and Nashville. I believe it's 4 hours from here. I don't know how far it's from Raleigh. It might be the same thing and talking about it's way out in East Tennessee and it's right on the Carolina border. So those would be the teams to fit it really well. And people love the acronym that you make up with it too. It would be NASCAR, NAS, Nashville, CAR, Carolina. That would fit up perfectly. And then it's just another example of the NHL venturing beyond a traditional market. And I don't know if it's Gary Bettman making these decisions or what, of putting Winter Classic games in indoor stadiums in Florida or putting them in Tampa. This would kind of fit in that same category. And essentially it is a lot colder up here. I believe today it's actually like, it's not freezing level, but it's in the high 40s right now. It's not 70 like it was in Miami during that game. However, I think they did open the roof. They did open the roof. So it is colder here consistently than the Florida games and what they're hosting there, and the Raymond James one that Tampa is playing in too. So it would fit into the theme of the NHL venturing beyond a traditional market. But as of now, January 4th, 2026, that has been debunked currently. But I would not be surprised, in my opinion, if that would come to fruition later on, that the NHL Winter Classic would be held at Bristol Motor Speedway in 2027. Write it down. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, you heard it here first. But the second rumor that was going around was that there is going to be a third jersey coming out. And I think this will happen too. I think this more so will happen than the Winter Classic. I have a little bit more faith in this, and just because the NHL is putting out third jerseys left and right. But there was a Reddit post, again, it's Reddit, it's just everywhere, claiming that the Predators will get that third Navy jersey that everybody's been wanting so bad. And it is sick. Like the silver Predators logo, like just silver and blue, just traditional, looks sleek. But the original poster claimed that he works for a hockey retailer in the United States. They work for a hockey retailer in the United States. And there's a new league-wide program that's going to be releasing jerseys. The program was listed as NHL HTR jersey program. Premium jerseys are listed at $200 for a blank, $230 for a name bar. Primary colors for each teams are noted as well. And then he said this is not confirmed, but it could be. So it from him or them, it's more so speculation. There's no validity to how he's even kind of like contradicting himself. There's no validity saying that this is true or this is going to happen, but I know that fans have been begging for this jersey. I've seen it everywhere. I put out kind of a poll in the beginning of the year of the preseason and fans wanting this jersey bad. So I think it's going to come. Absolutely. I don't know when it is, but it will definitely come for sure. It's just another opportunity for the NHL and Nashville Predators to make money. Why would they want to skip on that? So I think this is coming. I don't know how true this is, but I think it will come. I don't know how true a third jersey coming out of this conversation is, but it will be interesting for sure. But those were the two brief rumors that were circulating around this week, and there's never any break in this market, and which is strange considering that this team was really bad in the beginning of the year, and they're very good all of a sudden. And then it's that, and then there's layering on top of Nick Saban joining the team, and now the rumors of this, and there's something going on in Nashville with the Predators and hockey every day. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. If you enjoy hearing me talk, seeing my ramblings, what so not, you can follow me at Jack G. Williams on Twitter/X. I am Jack Williams on the Hockey News Nashville Predators. You can read all my writing there. I've tried to do my best and put out some interesting stuff. And then if you guys are just interested in Locked On Predators, find us on Twitter at LO_Predators. And then Facebook and Instagram, we are just Locked On Predators, locked on every day, all day, every day with y'all. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Again, appreciate y'all. Enjoy talking to y'all so much. Just enjoying another episode with y'all and looking forward to jumping into the rest of the new year and more Locked On Predators.